الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Tonight we have a special guest, Abdul Tawwab. Some of you know him. He teaches Quran memorization, and those of you who participated in Quran competition last Ramadan, he trained many of them, and actually one of his trainees emerged the winner of that competition. So today we will start with listening to a recitation of some verses about Surah Yusuf, some of which we'll be discussing during the course of the presentation. So let's take a listen to his recitation.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وقال للذي ظن أنه ناج منه اذكرني عند ربك فأنساه الشيطان ذكر ربه فلبث في السجن بضع سنين وقال الملك إني أرى 7 بقرات سمان يأكلهن 7 عجاف و7 سنبلات خضر وأخرى يابسات يا أيها الملأ أفتوني في رؤياي إن كنتم للرؤيا تعبرون قالوا أضغاث أحلام وما نحن بتأويل الأحلام بعالمين وقال الذي نجا منهما وادكر بعد أمة أنا أنبئكم بتأويله فأرسلون يوسف أيها الصديق أفتنا في 7 بقرات سمان يأكلهن 7 عجاف و7 سنبلات خضر وأخرى يابسات لعلي أرجع إلى الناس لعلهم يعلمون.
Yeah, actually, Brother Abdul Tawwab memorized the entire Quran from cover to cover. So Jazakallah khair. So we are still talking about Yusuf, still in jail, in prison. And last week and before, we talked first about him ending up in prison, yet he was innocent. He was unfairly, unjustly taken to prison. And then while in prison, he wasn't dejected. He was using his time wisely. He was praying to Allah, helping his fellow prison inmates. And then, after they discovered that he was knowledgeable in interpreting dreams, they confided to him their dreams, and he did well in interpreting those dreams. So one of them, the cupbearer, as we said before, the one who was in charge of providing drinks to the king, and finally he ended up in prison because the king had rumors that the chef and the cupbearer were conniving to poison his food. So according to Yusuf's interpretation of the dream, one of the two would be released and would go back to resume his work in the palace, and that was the cupbearer. So Yusuf alayhi salam, after interpreting the dream, when he knew that the cupbearer would be going back, he asked him to mention his name to the king and to tell him how he was unfairly imprisoned without committing any crime. But the devil, the shaitan, caused the cupbearer to forget, and there is reason and wisdom in each and everything. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about this. وَقَالَ لِلَّذِي ظَنَّ أَنَّهُ نَاجٍ مِّنْهُمَا اذْكُرْنِي عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ فَأَنْسَاهُ الشَّيْطَانُ ذِكْرَ رَبِّهِ فَلَبِثَ فِي السِّجْنِ بِضْعَ سِنِينَ. So then he said to the one whom he thought would be delivered of the two, mention me before your Lord. So by saying Lord, he means the king. For I am innocent. But Satan caused him to forget mentioning Yusuf to his Lord. So he remained in prison for some years. Now, some interpreters of the Quran say that because Yusuf alayhi salam asked the cupbearer to mention his pathetic situation in jail when he goes out, Allah kept him in jail for some time because he was supposed to pray to only Allah. But others say no, we as human beings, yes, we have to pray and depend on Allah, but we have to try our best to solve our problems. Whatever we think will bring us relief, so long as it does not contradict with the teachings of Islam, we pursue it, and then we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless our efforts and to bless us. So they say that when you reach a deadlock, you've explored all your means to get out of the problem, then the work of Allah begins over there. So there is no contradiction between Yusuf asking this man to go and mention to the king how he was unfairly imprisoned and in depending on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, and I agree with those who say Yusuf did what he did was right, to ask the cupbearer to mention his name to the king and how he was unfairly imprisoned, and then to pray to Allah to bless his efforts. So we try hard, but we ask Allah to bless our efforts. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs us that Yusuf asked the cupbearer to mention him before the king because he knew that soon the cupbearer would be released. So Yusuf wanted the king to know that he was innocently imprisoned without any crime. So in the previous verse, there is an evidence that striving hard to find means of survival or ways of getting out of the problem is meritorious and rewarding in Islam, as we usually say. So what Yusuf did was right, to try to get the means of him getting out of the jail. So if the devil tempted the cupbearer to forget, that's another issue, and everything happens with wisdom, especially when we're dealing with prophets and messengers. So this does not contradict with total dependence on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, a man who was going to pray and he had a camel, he was asking him, shall I just go and pray and leave the camel? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam told him, aqilha wa tawakkal, tether it and then depend on Allah. So you try your best, what you can do within your capability, and then you rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Yusuf asked the person, the cupbearer, to go and mention his situation to the king, how he was unfairly imprisoned, and then he depended on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do the rest. So the phrase, but Satan caused him to forget mentioning Yusuf to his Lord, means Satan, the devil, made the cupbearer forget what Yusuf had asked him to do. Now, you see, in life, sometimes maliciously we do things assuming that we would harm some people, or the devil is doing things assuming he's harming someone, but little does he know, but what he does will bring blessings to that person. How many, for example, someone plots against someone, he says this, he does this and that, and what he's plotting against that person, it brings him happiness, it brings him success. And actually in Arabic there is a proverb that goes, رُبَّ ضَارَّةٍ نَافِعَةٍ. So a person may do something assuming that he's harming you, but eventually it will end up benefiting you. For example, just an example, you're working with someone is your colleague, he doesn't like you, he would maliciously tarnish your reputation, mention to your boss that he doesn't work, he's doing this and that. So assuming that they will trust him and then they will hate you and fire you, on the contrary, it so happens that they discover he's lying and then they promote you and he stays wheresoever he is or she is. Or anything happens, they trust you. So in any case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preordained everything, and no one can frustrate the plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will come to pass whatsoever. And actually, things that we see as a punishment or something that we see as a curse, it's a blessing in disguise. So Mujahid and Muhammad bin Ishaq, both of whom are prominent historians in Islam among others, concurred that this is the most correct interpretation of the verse, that the devil made the cupbearer forget to mention the name of Yusuf to the king, what Yusuf had asked him to do. So Yusuf remains in prison for several years. He lingers in prison for several years. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلَبِثَ فِي السِّجْنِ بِضْعَ سِنِينَ. So he remained in prison for some years. Now, if you remember, those of you who were with us at the beginning of the tafsir class every Monday, we said one of the reasons we decided to have tafsir classes every Monday is because a non-Muslim read a verse in the Quran, a translation of a verse in the Quran, and although he was not a Muslim, he was concerned about the word that was used in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهَ وَهُوَ خَادِعُهُم. So this non-Muslim read the translation of this verse that the hypocrites seek to deceive Allah, but it's Allah who deceives them. Now the question is, can Allah deceive? Deception is among the tricks and ploys of the weak. If someone is stronger than you, you resort to tricking him, to deceiving him. But Allah is almighty. He doesn't need to trick anyone. He doesn't need to deceive anyone. So they translated literally the word the word khida into trick, which is correct linguistically, but from the Quranic point of view, the interpretation of it is that Allah will punish them for their deceit. Now we have the word bid'a here, although the translation is correct, but this is not it does not deliver the real meaning of the word. So the word bid'a has a lot of connotations. So yes, it can bring closer the meaning, but that's not the accurate meaning of the word bid'a, and we will see. So for some years, couple of years, several years, translating the word bid'a. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used it in another verse, in chapter 30, verse number 4. He says, فِي بِضْعِ سِنِينَ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was talking about the Romans, that at the beginning they were defeated by the Persians. And after some time, the Romans will defeat the Persians. And why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say this? Because the polytheists of Makkah were sympathizing with the Persians, because the Persians were idol worshippers like them. So they were birds of the same feathers flying together. So the idol worshippers of Makkah, they were siding with the Persians. So whenever the Persians would gain victory, they would be happy. And the Muslims were with the Romans, because they were regarded as the people of the book, Ahl al-Kitab. So according to Islam, the closest people to us are Ahl al-Kitab, the Jews and Christians. So because the polytheists were gloating over the Muslims because of the defeat of the Romans, Allah gave them glad tidings that soon will the Romans vanquish the Persians. So according to Abdullah Yusuf Ali, bid'a means a short period of time, a period from 3 to 9 years. He went on to write thus: the period between the loss of Jerusalem by the Romans and their victory over Issus, which was a town in Turkey, was 7 years. And actually, we keep in mind these 7 years, we'll refer to this. And to the penetration of Persia by Heraclius was 9 years. Anyway, we are still talking about the meaning of the word bid'a. This is to explain why the Muslims were sympathizing with the Romans, because they were all worshipping one God, although the Romans had some other concepts, but they were closer to them than the non-Muslims. Now, talking again about the word bid'a, it's here in a hadith. And actually, it's one of the reasons why I quoted this hadith, because there are some things which you can benefit from, which we can implement in our daily lives, from which you can get benefits. So Abu Hurairah narrated that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Al-imanu bid'un wa sab'una shu'ba, aw bid'un wa sittuna shu'ba." So he's using the word bid'a. And actually, in all translations, you can't find an accurate translation of this word. فَأَفْضَلُهَا قَوْلُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَأَدْنَاهَا إِمَاطَةُ الْأَذَى عَنِ الطَّرِيقِ وَالْحَيَاءُ شُعْبَةٌ مِنَ الْإِيمَانِ. Sahih Muslim. So translated as, Abu Hurairah narrated that the Messenger of Allah said, Iman, faith, consists of over 70 branches. So here bid'a has been translated as over. Bid'a. And we will see the real meaning of bid'a, or over 60 branches, the uppermost of which is the declaration that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah. So the uppermost, the highest branch of faith is to declare that there is no one worthy to be worshipped except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the most beloved statement to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala according to hadith of the Prophet. And the least of it is to pick up a harmful object from the road. So while you're walking, you see a broken glass, you see a wire, you see something that you feel, if someone steps on it, it will harm him, so you just pick it up and throw it, dump it, you will get rewarded for that. So don't take anything you do for granted. Everything that you do with sincerity, you are rewarded for that. And then the hadith continues, modesty or bashfulness is a branch of Iman. Now, actually, being modest, being shy, this does not contradict with demanding your rights. So there is a way in which you have to act appropriately. For example, I would like to ask people from different cultures, if a lady is talking to a man in front of her, so the man is 1 meter away from her, she shouts at him so much so that people who are 1 kilometer away would hear her voice. Is this Islamic? Is it Islamic? No. So sometimes you go to places, you find people are talking together, they're just close to each other. This isn't correct. So al-haya, shyness, someone should be shy, either man or woman. So we don't need to shout at one another. And this is part of faith. So if you maintain your modesty, if you feel shy in some situations that require shyness, you are actually a person of faith, and Allah rewards you for that. So there is nothing taken for granted. So the word used originally in Arabic, the word used originally in Arabic for several is bidr, which is used for numbers between 3 and 9. So this is the real meaning of bidr. It's used for numbers from 3 up to 9. Other linguists contend that it is used for numbers between 3 and 7, while others maintain that it refers to numbers from 3 to 5. Others like Athalabi opine that it can be used to refer to any number below 10. And actually, Abu Ja'far said this is the most correct opinion, that it could refer to numbers between 3 and 9 up to 10. So any number below 3 is not bidr. Any number above 10 is not bidr. So for how many years exactly did Yusuf stay in jail after the cupbearer had been released and was made to forget to mention the name of Yusuf in front of the king? So Qatada, Ibn Jurayj and Wahb maintain that he stayed there for 7 years. And actually they concur with Abdullah Yusuf Ali, who said that they stayed there for 7 years. So here Abu al-Hudayl al-San'ani says, سمعت وهبا يقول أصاب أيوب البلاء 7 سنين وترك في السجن يوسف 7 سنين وعذب بخت نصر فحول في السباع 7 سنين. So the translation is, Abu Hudayl said, I heard Wahab ibn Munabbih narrate this. Ayub stayed with his affliction for 7 years, Yusuf was left in prison for 7 years, and Nebuchadnezzar was punished for 7 years. So this is according to Wahab, Qatada and others. So Abu Ja'far says, the most correct meaning of bidr is that it refers to numbers between 3 and 9 up to 10. Therefore, any number below 3 cannot fall under the name bidr. So here bidr talks about numbers, specific numbers between 3 and 9 up to 10. And in some translations they say several, couple of, some, but this is the real meaning. So Ibn Abbas said he stayed in prison for 12 years. This corroborates the opinion of a blogger that some exegetes of Quran maintain that Yusuf had stayed 5 years in jail prior to the release of the cupbearer, and then 7 years after the latter's release. So altogether it was 12 years. Al-Dhahhak held the opinion that Yusuf remained in jail for 14 years. So whatever period of time he stayed in jail, he did stay in jail for some reasons that were predetermined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there are a lot of things that he achieved while he was in prison at that time. Now, while Yusuf is in prison, the cupbearer has already been released, and he forgets to mention Yusuf to the king, how he was unfairly imprisoned. So Yusuf lingers in jail, and while he's in jail, the king sees a dream, and this dream bothers him, and he looks for someone to interpret the dream. But no one among his clique was able to interpret it until they finally resorted to Yusuf. So imagine someone was unfairly imprisoned, he's languishing in prison, and a king has a dream. Any of those around him, no one can interpret the dream, and they are forced by circumstances to look for Yusuf, who is a prison mate. So we will see what happened. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وقال الملك إني أرى 7 بقرات سمان يأكلهن 7 عجاف و7 سنبلات خضر وأخر يابسات يا أيها الملأ أفتوني في رؤياي إن كنتم للرؤيا تعبرون قالوا أضغاث أحلام وما نحن بتحويل الأحلام بعالمين وقال الذي نجا منهما وادكر بعد أمة أنا أنبئكم بتأويله فأرسلون يوسف أيها الصديق أفتنا في 7 بقرات سمان يأكلهن 7 عجاف و7 سنبلات خضر وأخر يابسات لعلي أرجع إلى الناس لعلهم يعلمون قال تزرعون 7 سنين دأبا فما حصدتم فذروه في سنبله إلا قليلا مما تأكلون ثم يأتي من بعد ذلك 7 شداد يأكلن ما قدمتم لهن إلا قليلا مما تحصنون ثم يأتي بعد ذلك عام فيه يغاث الناس وفيه يعصرون. So the translation is, now one day the king said, I saw in a dream 7 fat cows being eaten by 7 lean ones. So imagine 7 fat cows being eaten by 7 thin ones, and 7 green ears of corn and 7 others withered, eating up the green ones. O assembly of nobles, explain to me my vision if you are able to interpret such visions. They said, it is just a muddle of dreams, nor are we knowledgeable in the interpretation of dreams. Then the one who had been delivered among the 2 prison mates, remembering at long last, said, I will tell you of its interpretation. So send me forth to the prison. So they agreed, they sent him to the prison, he met with Yusuf. So he said, Yusuf, O you who are truthful, explain to us the king's dream. So regarding 7 fat cows being eaten by 7 lean ones and 7 green ears of corn and 7 others withered, so that I may return to the court, to the assembly of the king, so that they may know its meaning after I tell them. He said, Yusuf is telling him, you will plant corn diligently for 7 years, but what you have harvested, leave it in its ears, except a little, from which you will eat. Then there will come after these 7 years, 7 severe years of drought that will consume what you've reserved for them, except a little of which you will store for seeds. Then there will come after this a year in which people will be relieved by rain, and in which they will rejoice and press grapes for wine and oil. So Yusuf interpreted the dream, as we will see, but there are some things that we'd like to discuss first. So the king saw a dream, and actually he saw it several times. And then when he shared it with his assembly, they downplayed it, and they didn't even bother to make an effort to research. It's only a cupbearer, a butler in other languages, in other words they call him a butler. It was only the butler who had recently been released from jail, and actually he was not among the people who were consulted. He just intruded that I know someone after others had failed. So the question is, what do we learn from the cupbearer's endeavor to help them find solutions or find interpretation to that dream? So he was not of the assembly. Probably he was serving them some drinks, and he had them discuss, the king asking for interpretation, and people saying, you know, this is a muddle of dreams, a mixture of dreams, we can't find any explanation, so they don't matter. But to the king it mattered. So the cupbearer, who was least expected to know anything, or at least to do anything, he offers solutions to them. What do we learn from this? Yes, sister? Never to look down upon anyone. So everyone in his own capacity can help you solve your problem. This is why in top management they say, if there is a problem, you consult with each and everyone, even those whom you regard as doing menial jobs. So I say even those whom we regard, because from the Islamic point of view, there is no job which is menial, which is looked down upon. Every job, so long as it's licit, it's good, it's within the parameters of Islam, is respectable. Every job, whether it's cleaning toilets, cleaning roads, we don't look down upon any job. So what's regarded between brackets as a person who is regarded as doing a menial job, you ought to consult with him. They might come up with solutions which you didn't expect. And actually, top companies, people have confessed that there were some problems, and top CEOs were not able to come up with solutions. The solutions came from people who were doing the menial jobs. So here the cupbearer takes it upon himself to look for solutions. What else do you learn from this? Any other answer? Most of the time, you get solutions and help from the people you least expected. So you get a problem, in your mind there is someone who would rush to help you, but in reality this person, for one reason or the other, you don't see him, and someone else you least expected is the one who comes to help. The cupbearer was least, even he wasn't among the people consulted. So he just interfered because he knew that it was important to the king. Knowledge, intelligence, foresight, among others, can't be determined by one's position, gender, color, among others. So you can't look down upon someone because he's different. So you say, okay, he doesn't know anything. How do you know that he doesn't know anything? So knowledge, intellect, these are gifts given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah doesn't discriminate. And actually, as we said before, among the differences between Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, doesn't it remember between the differences, one of the differences between Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, both of them are attributes of Allah. So Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, any of the differences, does anyone remember any of the differences between them?
Yes. Ar-Rahman is for all.
So Ar-Rahman, merciful for all, whether you believe in him or not. So even if you don't believe in him, he will give you sustenance, he will protect you, he will provide for you on earth, and you will be successful in whatever you do. But in the hereafter, he will be only Ar-Rahim, only merciful to those who believed in him. So part of it, of his rahmah, is to give knowledge and talent to each and everyone. So whether you believe in him, you don't on this earth, you will get talent, you'll be talented. So there is no discrimination in talents. The only thing is, most of us are lazy to use their brains and others are very active. That's the difference. But all our brains are the same. All our brain capacity is the same. But the difference is, how do you develop your skills? So this is where the difference comes in. No one is independent of another. So you can't say, because I'm a king, because I'm rich, I don't need anyone. So at that time the cupbearer was important. No one else was able to help except the cupbearer. So you can't look down upon anyone. Everyone is important in his own capacity. True love and loyalty manifest in making an effort to help someone. Even if you don't have knowledge, just make an effort to help. So the cupbearer didn't know how to interpret the dream, but he made an effort to first to advise them that there is someone who can do that. Send me to him. I'm going to consult with him and then I will come back to you. So he made an effort. This is what I tell people when they come to the marriage course, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about marriage in the Quran, he uses the word mawadda. So when Allah talks about the relationship or about intimacy between a man and a woman, husband and wife, he uses the word mawadda. And it's translated as love. And then we have mahabba. Mahabba is also translated as love. And then we have hub, translated as love. So if you refer to any translation, mawadda, mahabba, hub, all love, love, love. Again, there is a difference. Mawadda is more profound than mahabba. Mahabba, love, is general. The love for your son, for your brother, for your mother, for your father, for your, it's different. But when Allah is talking about intimacy between husband and wife, he uses the word mahabba, mawadda. So mawadda means you love one another, you take care of one another, you are concerned about one another. It's a full package. Sure. Love, care, attraction, concern, among others. So I always tell them, the people who come for the marriage course, that if, for example, you are a mechanic in a garage and your wife is a medical doctor and she comes back home, she complains that they have given her an extensive research, she doesn't know how to begin. You cannot tell her, I can't help you, I'm a mechanic, I don't know anything about medicine. If you are a good husband, you will make an effort either to Google it, ask friends, go to hospitals, make an effort to prove to her that you're trying to help. But don't just say, I'm a mechanic, I don't know anything. So this isn't mawadda. So mawadda is to care about her moods. So now, for example, she comes, she's concerned, she's distressed about the research that she was given. You've refused to help her, even to show baby steps of helping her. At night, you want to be intimate with her. How will it come? So in any case, there are a lot of things that we have to learn. Then, you should always consult with those deemed, you should always seek advice from people who are deemed by society as insignificant. So society looks down upon them, but if you are a clever person, don't look down upon them. If there is a problem, ask them. Maybe they have solutions to the problem. everyone is important in his own capacity. We said this. And then there is spotting talent. You know, Western countries are very good at spotting talent. If, for example, they see someone, for example, if the Chinese, they go to a developed country, they see someone good in taekwondo, karate, he makes moves, gymnastics, they take him. So they brush the skills and they give him the nationality. Western countries the same. If you run marathon well, do this and that. So this is one of the reasons why they have developed. But other countries, other communities, whenever they spot a talent, they feel afraid, they feel intimidated, they become jealous, they start plotting against this person. Why? Instead of benefiting from the skills. So here, the cupbearer is teaching us lessons that although he was just a butler providing drinks, he did know something about someone who would help. So interpretation of the king's dream was one of the reasons why Yusuf was released. And actually, when they offered to release him, he refused, as we will see. So the king of Egypt at that time, the one who saw the dream, was by the name Ar-Rayyan ibn al-Walid. I won't go through the whole, through all the names of his genealogy. So according to the people of the book, by the way, who are the people of the book? Jews and Christians. Jews and Christians. So according to the people of the book, the king saw in that dream as if he were standing at the bank of a river, River Nile, from which it appeared as though 7 fat cows had risen and continued to graze in a garden there. While grazing, 7 thin cows appeared from the same river, River Nile. They then grazed with the fat ones. Then all of a sudden they turned to them and ate them up. So the king was surprised. How come? Thin, withered, weak cows, 7 of them, eating up the fat ones. So he was terrified in the dream. They then not only that. So he woke up, he was frightened, then he slept, again he slept, after which he saw 7 green ears of corn on one stalk. Then all of a sudden he saw 7 dry ears of corn, eat them up. So 7 green ears of corn being eaten by 7 dry ears of corn. So when we say ears of corn, we don't mean ears. You know, sometimes there is a problem with language. There is a guy who called us 7 years ago. He was from Scotland. He went to visit his friend, Kuwaiti friend, and they gave him a chest. You know, these boxes in which in the past Kuwaitis would keep their jewelry and some other precious things. So he was given that as a gift. So the other person, his friend, wanted to have the same. So he went to the Friday market to buy it. He doesn't speak Arabic. So he said, I want to buy a chest. The vendors were offended. You want to buy my chest? You want to kill me? So they wouldn't understand him. He had to call us to explain to him what he wants. So someone might think it's an ear. No, in English, sometimes the ear is also referred to as a cob or a pole. So the ear is the spiked part of the corn plant that contains kernels. So this is the ear of a corn. So according to the Bible again, the king had a dream that while he was standing by the river Nile, there came out of it 7 fat cows and grazed among the reeds. After that, 7 other cows, ugly and lean, came out of the river and stood beside them on the same river bank. Then they turned toward the fat cows and ate them. The king woke up and was terrified. He slept again and had a second dream. He saw 7 green ears of corn grown on a single stalk. Surprisingly, he saw after that those seven thin and dry ears of corn spiraling over the green ones and eating them. He was terribly terrified, and this prompted him to go to his assembly to seek advice from his inner circle. So what happened? After narrating the dream to his inner circle, no one among them was able to interpret it. They rather said it's just a muddle of dreams. That means a mixture of dreams that happen at night bearing no meaning at all. Moreover, we don't have any knowledge or experience to interpret such dreams. So they downplayed the dream of the king. So Allah says, وَمَا نَحْنُ بِتَحْوِيلِ الْأَحْلَامِ بِعَلِمِينَ. Nor are we knowledgeable in interpreting dreams. So they didn't want to make an effort. They just said these are mixed dreams that people always see. They don't bear any meaning and we don't have any knowledge. So they didn't make any effort in trying to interpret the dreams. Yet they would pretend they were friends of the king. They were loyal to him, praising him. But when the king is in need, no one makes baby steps to try to help the king. So at that moment, the cupbearer who had been released from the prison remembered Yusuf and his ability to interpret dreams. He also remembered that Yusuf had asked him before to mention his name in front of the king and to notify him of his condition in the prison, as well as reminding him of his innocence while he had forgotten. So the cupbearer Yusuf, before he was released from the jail, Yusuf told him, when you go back to the palace, inform the king about me that I was unfairly imprisoned. But the cupbearer forgot because the shaitan, the devil, made him forget. Now at this juncture, when the king badly needs interpretation of his dream, then the cupbearer remembers Yusuf alayhi salam. So that so happened by Allah's predetermination and for so many reasons according to the infinite knowledge of Allah. So the shaitan thought he was successful in making the cupbearer forget, but little did he know that Yusuf now was getting more and more followers, or more and more people who understood his situation and who would sympathize with him. And there are some lessons which we learned. Before I go to those lessons, there's a quote that I'd like to share with you. It says, "A heart with no dreams is like a bird without feathers." A heart with no dreams is like a bird without feathers. What do we understand from this? So dreams can be something that you dreamt of at night, especially the good ones, and it could be something that you're planning to do in the future. So someone, for example, is planning to build a bungalow on a riverbank or some. So this is a dream, something that you want to achieve in the future. So here it says, a heart with no dreams is like a bird without feathers. What do we understand from this? So if you don't have dreams, you're like a bird without feathers. What do we understand? So dreams are one of the things that will motivate you to work harder in order to achieve them. And the more you work, the more you get experience, the more you get knowledge, the more you get self-confidence. So in the process of trying to achieve your goals, you learn a lot. So even if you do not necessarily achieve your goals, you will have gained in the process. And if you are a Muslim, as I usually say, if you want to achieve your dreams, and your main aim is to please Allah, then after pleasing Allah, you want to achieve your own goals, Allah rewards you if you die without achieving those dreams. Either way, you will gain, whether you achieve them or not. So here, dreams are very important, and this is why everyone has to have a plan for his life. So some lessons: do not try to justify your ignorance. When the dignitaries of the king's court did not have any knowledge of interpreting dreams, they said that the dream was confused and lacked coherence. So this was an excuse because they didn't want to try hard to make an effort. So they justified ignorance. So what do we learn from this? You know, sometimes people who give lectures or who wrote books about personality development, they tell you if there is a problem, try yourself to solve it. So when you fail to solve the problem, this is why you can involve others. Because when you try so hard to solve it, and then a person comes to help you, all the procedures will stick in your mind, rather than just depend on someone. Every time you have a problem, you call someone. I am not a computer savvy, I myself, but whenever I have a problem, I try to solve it before I ask anyone to help me. So, and I gain a lot. And actually, when you try very hard to solve a problem and you fail, then someone shows you how to do it. You can't forget it. You already know, I tried this, it didn't work, and finally I got this. So it will stick in the mind. Number two, tasks that require skill must be left to those who are capable. An expert would interpret a dream correctly, whereas the non-expert would claim that the same dream is confused. So those people were saying they were confused dreams, but Yusuf alayhi salam interpreted them well, so much so that they saved an entire community from famine. He gave them even a plan how to behave, what will happen and what should they do during that time. So had the cupbearer kept quiet, the entire community would have suffered. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through one person interpreting well the dream, saved millions of people from famine which was going to happen. So Allah saves a nation from famine by giving its oppressive and tyrannical king a dream that was finally interpreted by Yusuf. We can't be independent of each other. So imagine Yusuf was unfairly imprisoned. And actually there is something important here. Yusuf alayhi salam was unfairly imprisoned. So he would have been burning with wrath and indignation about everyone, especially the king and the high minister. And this would be the time to show now his worth, to say, no, I can't help you because you people, you neglected me, you treated me unfairly, so I won't interpret the dream for you until you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Did he give them preconditions before interpreting the dream? What do we learn from this? Yusuf didn't give them preconditions. Although he was mistreated, unfairly imprisoned, and no one cared about him, especially those who were in high rank. So now they need him, so he doesn't give any preconditions. Even he doesn't stipulate any demands that yes, I will interpret the dream. It's very important, but you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He never did that. Why? Does he know? Yes.
Forgiveness?
Forgiveness. So he had forgiven who? The high minister. But now it's the king who wants the dream to be interpreted, not the high minister. So what do we learn? Mercy. Mercy towards, so having mercy towards the innocent people who would be affected had they not taken precautionary measures according to the dream. So mercy to the entire community. So he didn't want people to suffer because of the mistreatment of how the people in the high echelon mistreated him. So there were innocent people who would suffer. So mercy. What else? Self-confidence. So he was confident that by doing this, time will come when they will realize who he was. What else?
He was a genuinely kind person.
He was genuinely a kind person. Yes, sister?
He did not want to do the same as what people had done.
So two wrongs cannot make a right. So he got, first of all, whatever you said is correct, and there are some other reasons here. He got the knowledge from Allah, and he was giving it for the sake of Allah. So he got the knowledge from Allah, and he was giving it for the sake of Allah, expecting his rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is very important. You know, prophets and messengers are the best human beings. So Yusuf alayhi salam being a prophet, I don't know by that time if he was a prophet or not, but he was from a noble descent of prophets and messengers. So he was a virtuous person. So a virtuous person cannot expect a reward from someone who is inferior to him in terms of morality and good deeds. So if he does good things, he's expecting his reward from someone above, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, if you've been given a job somewhere and a CEO of the company says, don't worry, I will be paying your salary, and the president of that country, of the entire country says, don't worry, I will pay the salary. Whom will you choose? The CEO or the president? You go for the president. So وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He rewards you, He gives you the best, He's happy with it, and He will bless the reward. We did talk before about some of the meanings of the word blessing. We said it means protection. So a human being can give you something, but does he have the ability to protect you from the evil of what you can do from what he gave you, or from the evil of the people who will be plotting against you? So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to you, He's happy with you, He's happy with it, He will protect you, He will benefit you in whatever He gives you. So Yusuf wants his reward from Allah, not from a human being. And this is why I always tell people that whatever you do, do it for the sake of Allah. Don't do it for the sake of human beings, because human beings are very complicated. A few of them would appreciate what you do for them, and some of them, even after doing them a favor, instead of thanking you or rewarding you, they will plot against you. You'll become a threat. They will start being jealous of you. So imagine. Number two, their reward would not be as complete and beneficial to him as the reward of Allah. So he wants the reward of Allah, which would be complete and beneficial. By releasing him, it would appear that they were doing him a favor in return. So for example, if he stipulated a condition that, you know, you have to release me so that I interpret the dream to you, so it would appear that they were doing him a favor. And he didn't want it to appear that they were doing him a favor because he was unfairly imprisoned. So if he was unfairly imprisoned, they are the ones who have to plead with him to release him, not him to plead with them, because he didn't commit any crime. So if, for example, he stipulates a condition and he says, you know, I will interpret the dream, you have to release me. So in town, people will say, yes, he was a criminal, he did something bad, but because he interpreted the dream, then he was forgiven. So he didn't want that to happen. So it was his right to be released, and they were supposed to apologize to him and compensate him for the duration of his stay in jail. So he didn't want to give them this impression. So his credibility would dwindle, and people would think that he was profiteering from that. So people would think that, you know, since he stipulated a lot of conditions, maybe this is what he does, and he might lie in order to get profits. So he wanted to assure them that what he was telling them was true, and he was not looking for any ulterior motives. So, you know, I have heard of a restaurant in some countries, in one of the developed countries, whereby if you go there after they serve you, you determine how much you will pay. So they don't have a list of prices. So you go there, they give you the menu without prices, they serve you, and then when it's time to pay, they tell you to determine how much you'll pay. And according to research, people end up paying more than what they would have been demanded to pay. Has anyone of you heard of this restaurant? I mean, I've heard of it. Yeah, where?
In the States.
In the States, yeah. Yeah. So they're making money more than any other restaurant. So you determine how much you will pay, and you pay more. So Yusuf alayhi salam wanted them, after doing them the service, to determine what to do, not him. That dream, the interpretation of that dream was among the reasons for him to be released from jail. Although he didn't put a precondition, they finally released him, and as we will see, he refused to go out of jail, and we'll see what were the reasons. Now, you see, sometimes we get it wrong. You want to be paid for every service that you do for the community. Yes, you can be paid, but it won't be as much as the reward that you get without demanding. I'll give an example. There is a time when we invited someone to give a lecture, and that was a very valuable lecture for doctors and nurses, among others. So at first he wanted to be paid, and I told him, we are a non-profit organization, so we just ask you to volunteer and give the lecture, and you never know, you might be paid in different ways. So after convincing him, he gave the lecture. So after that lecture, some people invited him to go to some countries, Holland, Denmark, Sweden, to give lectures, and he was paid a lot. So finally he came to me and said, thank you. Because of you, I knew people, and now I got more than even I would have been paid when you paid me. For example, if it was payment, we would have given him 20 KD, 30 KD, but he ended up getting about $3,000 from the travels, let alone air ticket. So what I'm trying to say, it's not always 1 + 1 is 2. So if you don't give me the 1 + 1, I won't work. Sometimes you need to just do service for the sake of people. Allah will bless you in different ways. So, and this happened during the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, after interpreting that dream. So to interpret dreams, one must turn to the right kind of people, and one must not disclose it to anyone who is not properly qualified to interpret it. Actually, there are many ahadith. If you have a dream, you just disclose it to people whom you trust. Even Yusuf alayhi salam, when he saw his dream, what did his father tell him? Don't narrate it to your brothers. So his own brothers. So you see a dream, maybe there is something good in it. Some people maliciously will discourage you, and some people maliciously will threaten you that, you know, it's bad, this and that will happen, because they don't want you to achieve what you are about to achieve, and they won't encourage you. So the Prophet ﷺ, likewise, or conversely, lying that you saw a dream which you didn't see isn't allowed in Islam. So someone, for example, he wants to please his spouse, wife wants to please husband, husband wants to please his wife. He comes in the morning and says, you know, I saw you in paradise wearing white clothes and near some fountains with lush green vegetation. So he wants his wife to be happy, yet it's false. He didn't see it. So what did the Prophet ﷺ say? What did the Prophet ﷺ say? He says, وَمَنْ تَحَلَّمَ كلف يوم القيامة أن يعقد شعيرتين أو قال بين شعيرتين وعذب ولن يعقد بينهما ومن استمع إلى حديث قوم يكرهونه صب في أذنيه الآنك يوم القيامة. So the translation is, Abdullah bin Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, and his father said that the Messenger of Allah said, he who claims to have seen a dream that he did not see will be ordered to knot two barley seeds, so the seeds of barley, to tie them in a knot together, which he will not be able to do, and so he will be punished. And he who seeks to listen to the talk of a people secretly will have molten lead poured into his ears on the day of judgment. So there are things we are warned of here in this hadith. What are they? What are the things that we understand from this hadith that we should avoid? Gossip. Gossip. So talking about people.
To avoid narrating stories and dreams that are not true.
Yeah, yes. You didn't see a dream, or you saw a dream, you narrated differently. This isn't allowed in Islam. What else?
Be truthful.
To be truthful. To be truthful in whatever you say. So don't lie, either you want to please someone or to get benefits. So even with regard to the dreams, you have to tell the truth. So I have some quotes here which are good. Dark times always reveal good people. Dark times always reveal good people. Another one, blessed are they who see beautiful things in humble places where other people see nothing. So where other people see nothing, the blessed people will see something. What do we understand from these quotes? Dark time always reveal good people. For example, Yusuf alayhi salam, he was unfairly imprisoned, so he would have been dejected. He would have hated everyone, spoken evil of the entire community, but he chose another path, helping the inmates, jail inmates, comforting those who were dejected, and if anyone was ill, he would try to treat them, and if anyone needed money, he would collect it for them. So according to some narrations, people in the jail liked him so much so that if someone was released, he would come back to meet with him. So he used this time in a dark, because he was a good person, he used this dark place to provide light to the others. So in this dark place, he was a light provider to the others, and he won their hearts and minds. What else do we learn from these two quotes? Any ideas? Be always positive, right? Yeah. Even in negative situations, you can do something positive. For example, Ibn Taymiyyah, a Muslim scholar, he was unfairly jailed because of his religiosity, because of his religious commitment. But in the jail, he authored a lot of books. So he spent his time writing books about Islam. So imagine they imprisoned him because of being religious, and in prison, he writes books about Islam. And he told those who jailed him, he said, you can punish my body, you can restrain my body, but you can't punish my soul. You can't restrain my soul. So I find comfort here, I find happiness because I'm a positive person. I'm a person who understands who Allah is. So وَقَالَ الَّذِي نَجَى مِنْهُمَا وَادَّكَرَ. Then the one who had been delivered among the two prison mates remembered at long last. So he remembered Yusuf when the king had seen the dream, and he remembered how Yusuf interpreted his dream. And there is something here that we learn. You know, there is something in marketing, what they call viral marketing. Viral marketing is someone provides good service to you, you trust this person, and you will encourage others to go to that person as well. So because Yusuf had interpreted the dream of the cupbearer while in jail, and this dream came to pass, it was reality, he was released, and it happens as Yusuf had told him, so he was very confident that Yusuf is the person. So he didn't look for his brother, he didn't look for his father, he didn't look for anyone else. he went to Yusuf. As it so happens in some situations, there is a deal, you know someone isn't capable of doing it, but you give it to him anyway, and you tell him, you know, I'm bringing you a deal, I want 20%. So you'll find some other people to help, and you pretend that your friend is the one who did it, yet he isn't the one, because you want to profit here from that. So the cupbearer was also sincere, coming back to Yusuf, as we said, spotting talent, because he knew that Yusuf had the talent. And this underscores what I said, we shouldn't always look for quick benefits. So what you do today for free, it might bring you benefits tomorrow and after tomorrow, more than even what you would have gotten. So this means he remembered after a considerable period of time. So he told the king and his clique, I will tell you its interpretation, so send me to Yusuf. So he told them, if you want interpretation of this dream, send me to Yusuf. He will explain it. So they agreed and they sent him to Yusuf. So he went and met with Yusuf. Now he says, Yusuf ayyuha siddiq, aftina fi sab'i baqaratin simanin ya'kuluhunna سبع عجاف وسبع سنبلات خضر وأخر يابسات لعلي أرجع إلى الناس لعلهم يعلمون. Yusuf, O you who are truthful, explain to us the king's dream regarding 7 fat cows and being eaten by 7 lean ones, and 7 green ears of corn, and 7 others withered, so that I may return to the people of the court, the assembly of the king, so that they may know its meaning. So here, the cupbearer, when meeting Yusuf after he was released, he's telling him Siddiq, the truthful. So why do you think he addressed him as a truthful person? What were the reasons why the cupbearer, when coming back to Yusuf while he's still in prison, he says Ayyuha Siddiq? He begins with the truthful, you who is truthful. Why did he call him truthful?
Because it's dream, which he interpreted became true.
So because he correctly interpreted his dream. So he knows he's a righteous man, and he didn't give him preconditions. The only thing he told him is to mention his name in front of the king. And that doesn't require any effort. You don't have to pay money. You don't have to make any effort just to say, Yusuf is in jail. So he didn't give him any preconditions, or he didn't ask him to do anything, just interpreted the dream, and it was correct. Number one. Number two, did Yusuf criticize him, saying, you know, I had told you to mention my name to the king, you forgot me when you were enjoying, now when you need me, you're coming back to me. Did Yusuf tell him that? No, he didn't do that. So one of the reasons why he was called truthful, it's how he was treating them in jail. So you remember when they were together in jail, Yusuf would always help them. If someone was ill, he would treat him, he would comfort them, give them good words, he would pray. So he treated them well. So he earned their trust and respect. As we said before, we shared one quote which says, knowledge gives you power, but your manners give you trust. So with knowledge you become powerful, but with good manners you earn people's trust. So we need both of them. We need knowledge and good manners. The problem is a lot of people have knowledge, but they lack hikmah, wisdom, when to say what, where to say what, and also they lack good manners. Someone, yes, has knowledge, but he's arrogant. Someone, yes, has knowledge, but he doesn't know how to speak. For example, there is a person who used to claim somewhere that he was very talented in presenting Islam to non-Muslims, especially from the West. And even he had a master's degree in comparative religion, praising himself. So one day, there was a teacher who wanted to know something about Islam from the West, and we connected them together. We told her, this is a very qualified person who can give you a good information about Islam. After 45 minutes, she got out of the meeting and she said, I don't want to see that man again. I don't want to see him again. So until now, we don't know what happened. So imagine someone claiming he has knowledge, all these qualifications, and this is where you show your talent. For example, if someone says, you know, I am a very skilled surgeon, so diseases which others have failed to treat, or operations which others have failed to do, he does it to show that he is, yes, skilled, but just by word. So she said, I don't want to see him. So what does it mean? Although he had knowledge, there was something wrong. Yusuf didn't ask for any benefits, so this is why he called him trustworthy. And also he had learned that the woman was trying to have an affair with Yusuf, but Yusuf tried to escape. So all these came together in order to confirm that Yusuf was an innocent person and trustworthy. And Yusuf was not complaining about his situation in jail, even as we said, he didn't reprimand him. But there is something also that we learn here. He begins, Yusuf, O Yusuf who are truthful. So before he begins to ask Yusuf to interpret the dream, he begins with telling him that he is truthful. What do we learn from this? What do we learn from this? You know, there is a book entitled How to Get What You Want. One of the tips that they give you, if you need something from someone, you begin praising him. So praising him, saying things that he really has, behavior that he is famous with, but don't praise him, don't overpraise him, because he will understand that you're just flattering him. It's called cheap flattery. Don't use cheap flattery, because he will detect it. He will detect it. So Yusuf, the man, the cupbearer, began with praising Yusuf, and of course Yusuf is trustworthy. And number two, he is telling him, Yusuf, you're a trustworthy person. Of course, when Yusuf knows that people know he's a trustworthy person, he cannot lie to them. He will try his best to be truthful. And also we learn to encourage people. So in schools, they have a method called a carrot and a stick. Most of the time they use sticks, they don't use carrots. Or sometimes they promise to give carrots, the students don't see them. So we have to use more carrots than sticks. So here, the cupbearer is telling Yusuf something good, encouraging him. Explain to us the king's dream regarding 7 fat cows being eaten by 7 lean ones, and 7 green ears of corn, and 7 others withered, so that I may return to the people of the court, and they may know its meaning. So he was so that I may. So he's giving him the reasons why he needs the interpretation of the dream. And this is again another problem. When we deal with either our employees or we deal with our children, we always give them commands without justifying them. So tell him why he should do what you want him to do. Because if you tell him why, he will find other means of doing it. He will not necessarily follow the traditional ways of you solving the problem. So you tell him, I don't want you to do this because of this and this, or I want you to do this because of this and this. So if you tell them the why, they will even help you to find the how of doing it. So before we continue, we have here some quotes. Truth is like the sun. You can shut it out for a time, but it's not going to go away. So you can shut the sun for a time, but it won't go away. So truth is like the sun. You can cover yourself from it. You can put a shield. You can do something, but the sun will not go away. So the truth will always remain true. Truth. Truth will always be truth, regardless of lack of understanding, disbelief, or ignorance. Truth will always be truth, regardless of lack of understanding, disbelief, or ignorance. So Yusuf alayhi salam, they resorted to him, a man of truth. And also other quotes: don't talk, just act. Don't say, just show. Don't promise, just prove. Don't talk, just act. Don't say, just show. Don't promise, just prove. And another one, you think behind every chance there is another one. And then another one. Is the worst kind of extravagance, spending chances. So don't squander your chances. Whenever you get the chance, you use it. So Yusuf interpreted to the man, to the cupbearer, the dream, and then showed him what to do. He also informed him of the necessary steps to be taken during both times of abundance and famine. He advised them to store up all the grains harvested during the first 7 years of abundance, to store the grains in the spikes or ears, except what they would eat. He went on to advise them to sow small amounts of seeds in the second 7 years, because they would probably not grow, those grains would not grow due to the shortage of rain. So it would be a waste of time and efforts. So what else do we? So Yusuf, his work was only, his responsibility, or the request was to interpret the dream. But now he's giving them advice. What do we learn from this? He was justified if he would just interpret the dream and tell them, okay, I've done my job, go and tell them. But now he's advising them. What do we learn from this? So he was generous even in advice. So generosity is not only in monetary terms. everything that you have, if you share it with others honestly and sincerely, this is generosity. So he was generosity in advice, in ideas, in knowledge among others, sharing the knowledge with others, giving advice to the others, which is among the meritorious acts of Islam, to share your knowledge with others, share talent with others, because you got it for free from Allah, so you share it with others. But the good thing is, if you share it sincerely, Allah rewards you in different ways. And also, he is telling them not to waste their time. If you know that something will waste your time, don't do it. A lot of people do things, they just want to do them for the sake of doing it. This is why before you do anything, do a research. If it will work or not. Follow the necessary steps. Ask the people, so it will save you a lot. Don't do something and then you fail, then you will have wasted your time. So Yusuf didn't want these people to waste their time, because he had told them that 7 years would be dry, no rain, just whatever you have of the seeds, plant a few of them, because if you plant many of them, rain won't come and you will lose efforts and your grains. So this demonstrated the profound understanding and wisdom that Allah had bestowed upon Yusuf alayhi salam. Now Yusuf interpreted the dream immediately, so he interpreted it. But now here they're telling us he did it immediately without any preconditions. So with the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him, Yusuf interpreted the dream unconditionally and immediately. So he didn't say, okay, you have to pay me this, you have to do this and that. Even he didn't criticize the cupbearer. You forgot about me. You know, many people have the tendency, for example, for one reason or the other, if you didn't communicate with them for a long time and then you happen to need them, they'll say, now you know me, you know that I exist. A long time you didn't call me because you need me. This, according to Islam, you don't do that. You don't embarrass someone, you just help for the sake of Allah. So when you do things for the sake of Allah, whether this person appreciates, whether this person calls you, whether he does this and that, you are doing it for the sake of Allah, and Allah will reward you. And if Allah will reward you, you don't need to embarrass anyone. So rather he sincerely honored their request and interpreted the king's dream, which meant that the 7 years of fertility and abundance would be followed by 7 years of famine. Now I have here some other quotes. Why wish upon a star when you can pray to the one who created it? Why wish upon a star when you can pray to someone who created it? What do you understand from this? Why wish upon a star when you can pray to someone who created it? What do you understand from this? You know, some people in the morning, before going to work, they get newspapers and they go to the page about horoscopy, and then they read the Sagittarius, Scorpio, among others, and they said, oh, today it won't be beneficial, I won't do it. So this is shirk in Islam. So instead of doing that, pray to Allah to make you successful. Pray to Allah to protect you. So Yusuf alayhi salam was doing things for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He didn't need anyone, but even when he asked the cupbearer to mention his name to the king, he was doing what is called, he was doing tawakkul, because according to Islam, you do it and then you ask Allah to bless it. And if it doesn't work, you don't blame anyone. So he was actually relying upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and even he didn't criticize the man. So another one is Allah will help him who moves in the way of Allah. So if you move in the way of Allah, if you do things for the sake of Allah, if you remember Him in both prosperity and adversity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be with you. So Yusuf alayhi salam did help them. So actually I wanted to end with this slide. Not only did Yusuf interpret the dream, but he also guided them to what they ought to do during the period of fertility and abundance, and then during the time of drought. He advised them to store what they harvested during the time of abundance, so that they would resort to it during the time of drought. This is an indication of his diverse knowledge, understanding, and foresight. There is something that we learn from here. So you'll have 7 years of rain and abundance, so whatever you harvest in this year, don't consume it all. So you keep some for the time of drought. What do we learn from this? One of the things that we learn is, if you are an employee, you get a salary, don't spend all your money. because maybe tomorrow you'll become ill, maybe there is a problem that will happen. So you have to have something on your account. At home, don't be extravagant. Don't exhaust all the resources that you have. And then tomorrow you don't know from where you can get something to help you. So he's teaching them here how to save. So Yusuf alayhi salam was teaching people how to save. Unfortunately, I know some people who don't know how to save. On the 15th of the month, he doesn't have even a dinar yet. His salary is big, making big parties, spending a lot of money. So when he's in trouble, there is a problem. So what else do you learn from this? Yusuf is teaching them how to save. Not only to save money, not only to save the resources, also to save your time. What do you learn from this? Any lessons that we learned from Yusuf advising them? Yeah, you don't be extravagant. So you have to maintain moderation. Don't be extravagant and don't be stingy. So be in the middle. And actually there is a verse about this.
Time management.
Time management. We have to learn time management. A lot of us fail in time management. We have to make sure we don't waste our time, because among the things that Allah will ask us on the day of judgment, what did you do in your free time? So what are we going to answer? So whatever you do, it should be beneficial to you. And actually, when we say this, some people think that, Islam is a rigid religion. No, there is time for leisure. You can say, for example, 15 minutes I'm going to watch comedy, so long as it's within the parameters of Islam. So 15 minutes I'm going to swim, I'm going to do this. All this is ibadah. And actually, entertainment is very important in Islam, and also according to our health. According to experts, at least out of 24 hours, you have to laugh for 15 minutes. This is good for your health. So what else do we learn from this?
That we have to plan for our future.
So you have to have a future plan. You have to have a future plan. So it could be a short-term plan, long-term plan, but you have to have a plan. Don't say, a lot of people had plans, but they died before achieving their goals. We say, if you have a plan and you die before achieving your goals, if your first priority was to please Allah and then to help humanity, you get rewarded for that. Because one of the reasons why we are here on earth is to develop the living conditions on earth. This is part of ibadah. So building a good house, building hospitals, wearing good clothes, this is all Islamic. So you don't have to torture yourself. You don't have to restrain yourself. And actually, some people have the tendency, for example, you want to give someone a drive from here to Hitin in August, actually at around 12:30 when it's extremely hot. And someone would say, I will walk because on the day of judgment, the heat will be very terrible. So this one is less than the day of judgment. Let me walk. Why do you tell such a person? So when you have a blessing, use it. When you don't have it, that's another issue. So you can't torture yourself assuming, okay, let me prepare for tomorrow when I don't have it. When you have it, use it. وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, talk about the bounties of your Lord. Show them. So the Prophet ﷺ would always show the people, wear good clothes, good perfumes, to show that he was a happy person, showing the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or some people, for example, would say, I am afraid to eat good food because some refugees are suffering in some countries. When you come to that state, then you will learn. But now when you have a bounty, a blessing, use it. It's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What else do you learn from this? Even at the end of it, Yusuf again didn't give him preconditions. Even he didn't remind him that now that I have interpreted your dream, go and mention my name to the king. Yusuf never did it. And even as we will see, his brothers who actually wanted to kill him, finally he will forgive them and give them a lot of provisions when he is in power. He will not retaliate. So the life of Yusuf is full of lessons. And actually it's a dramatic life because it touches upon many aspects of life. Things that we see today happen. One of the things that I see today happen You might pin your hopes on someone that when I'm in trouble, this is the person who will help me. When you are it's a problem, you don't see him. Someone else whom you didn't expect. So this is why we say, do things for the sake of Allah. If you do things for the sake of Allah, Allah will find a way for you. Okay, Jazakumullah khair. See you inshallah on Monday when we discuss Surah Taghabun. We will be talking about families and children, how there are temptations and what to do, and what the Prophet ﷺ said about Al-Hasan and Al-Hussein when he was giving a speech. He saw them stumbling in their red shirts. He had to interrupt his speech and descended. He carried them. And now, for example, I've seen some parents, he's praying. A 4-year-old boy comes and stands in front of him. He violently pushes him. This is not Islam. So, Jazakumullah khair.